iRacing.
A circuit which, in the grand scheme of the world of motorsport, often goes as underrated for what it is. Known more in the sense of being a motorcycle track, this is a track that produces great racing each and every time you put any sort of vehicle upon it. This a circuit full of high-speed thrills, of hairpins which aren't necessarily as closed off as others, but keeps that natural average high speed up. At the gateway to Melbourne is this here in Cowes, Victoria. This is Phillip Island, and this is yet again another big charge in the battleground of the IMSA Vintage Series. It's round 10 here with us. My name's Jake Sperry, Craig King alongside with me today for today's action, as Christian Deploy sits in the director's chair using the cameras provided by Dougie Beard. But to a Phillip Island, which has its own small quirks about it and might be one of the great racing circuits that the world has certainly seen. Let's take a look around this place with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Phillip Island. As the name implies, this track is located on a splotch of land off the south coast of Australia near Melbourne. While there's been plenty of racing here for close to a century, the track's current incarnation has only been around since the late 80s. And this version is a doozy. With only 12 turns spread across the roughly 4.5 kilometers, it's a decently fast circuit. But what really makes this place stand apart is the incredible variety in those few corners. From negative to positive camber, early apexes, late apexes, blind crest, hairpins, sweepers, if you name it, it's probably got it. On top of that, the front stretch tends to offer up a slipstream with its incredible length, but it then forces the drivers into a game of chicken by chucking them into the frightening Ewan. Corners like Lukey Heights stretches a car's grip to the limit and then shocks you with a sudden downhill braking into MG. Retaining something of an old-school twist, unlike most modern courses, Phillip Island has earthen embankments running along many parts of the track. While it's meant to keep the cars safely retained within the circuit's confines, anyone unfortunate enough to manage to jump them will be faced with a ton of damage for their troubles. A variety of types of racing take place at the track, including motorcycles, lower-level open-wheelers, and touring cars. Possibly the most well-known among those is the Australian Supercars Championship. With the Aussie reputation of having dangerous, difficult, and challenging circuits, Phillip Island certainly holds up to the standard. The beautiful views of the beach and the ocean may lure some of the fans in, but there's no doubt that the incredible racing at this unique track keeps them around.
And so with Phillip Island, an understanding of a track which has been used pretty much wonderfully in the national scene and, of course, for MotoGP's racing action here, a former Honda testing track for the Repsol Honda team, a circuit that opened in 1928, Craig, and one that has many amazing places where moves can be done. I look at turn 1 into turn 2, the Southern Loop, turn 4 at Jack Miller Corner, and then all the way over the top of Lukey Heights into MG turn 10. Those the prime places to get it done today.
Yeah, could not put it any better myself. The high speed here is going to be fantastic for other drivers. This used to be an F1 track, so those GTPs are really going to love the speed they get out these corners, out the track. But those slow corners that you mentioned, they're going to be crucial, not just for the overtake, but because when it comes to multi-class later in the race, you're going to see some drivers missing their braking point because they have to get to the right of the track and the signs are on the left of the track. So do look out for that. And even though it is a track that's more favorable for the GTPs, GTOs are going to love it today, Jake, because they can fuel save. It's an hour-long race.
It is. It's a long race here today. An extra 20 minutes added up onto the clock, and that means that for a slightly longer race like this, we could see more strategy available to these drivers. So keep that in mind over the course of a long run like this, that being at the front at Phillip Island might not necessarily be the biggest port of call that people go to. But we've got 2 championships to walk through. First and foremost, we'll start, of course, with the GTPs, those Nissan GTPs out there. Audrius Valenterius, from 6 starts in category, has 6 victories in the back pocket. Nicholas Mukanos, 24 points behind, is the nearest challenger. Remember, it's 25 points for a win in this series, as Brendan Lim finds himself third, just the 1 point ahead of Jacob Reed. You then got Christoph Olenizak, who is there in 5th, Matthew Cockram in 6th position, with Gabri Martinez 7th, Ferran Grau in 8th, leading Cal Young, and Shadi Ahmad making up your top 10 as they go. But GTO is also looking quite expansive, which I find quite fascinating here, Craig.
Yeah, when you look at it, Johan van Hicks has dominated this season. He's only had 2 victories, but just for the fact that consistency is key, And that has allowed him to just really pull ahead of the likes of Noah Lundberg and Mickey Friesen, who both haven't been here all season. And when they haven't had the best of luck out there. So very interesting when you come to the rest of the field. But it is really Van Hicks's, even before the drop weeks come in. That's very interesting to see. Schuster and Brain also trying to get on those top 3 steps. Going to be very interesting. But one name I like to point out there, Emilio Dicciari in 10th. 4 points ahead of Jamie Hamill-Smith. They are also battling for the GTU, which is the Juniors Cup, which Dicciari is leading by 3 points. So really good to see the juniors in the main standings for the GTOs.
It really is, and I think it will be rather telling to see that if the juniors are up there fighting in and around the top 10, that there is a bright future of this championship should the pace and the iRacing increase as this series goes. But for today's racing action, we talked about it earlier here at round 10 of 12. It's a 60-minute race, so they have to go the hour, and if they have to pit, they pit. If they don't, they don't. Open setups means you can fiddle with the car the way that you need to. There is no spare car available to these drivers, and with most iRacing official races, the drive-through is at 17. The disqualification is at 25, so they're going to have to hold on to those instant points a little bit longer, and they've got themselves to go an extra 33% in this race compared to what they would normally do. So that's going to be worth keeping in mind with drivers here, hoping that their category, their championship is going to work out the way that they want to. Worth noting as well that we've got a bigger discrepancy here of GTO compared to GTP, which means that that secondary category is going to be the one that does clog up the field more than the others. But we've got some very interesting positions as far as qualifying goes, because Valentegas is only on his first flying lap right now as we focus with 8th place overall. Dylan Freckleton currently out there hoping to make this second lap improve on a 1:14.6. It's Ivan Platon who's on the top right now with Henning Schwebig in 2nd place.
Going to be interesting. That's a real interesting top 2 so far. Jacob Reed, the number 2 car, only got 6th fastest in the GTP. That could be 7th by the time Valenteas come by. We're watching Dylan Freckleton go through the slow MG at 10 and start to crank it up to 11. He have match! Oh my word! Valenteas on his first lap is match. What can Dylan Freckleton do as he comes down across the line? There is Valenteas. Freckleton will come across the line, and I will let you know that it is faster. It isn't. He basically matches his time.
Yep, Tomia Inatani moves up then to 8th position. Keep an eye on Noel Lundberg here. This second lap, he's already 2/10 clear of the rest. In terms of 1-lap pace, Lundberg has by far and away been the best driver. He just hasn't been able to connect and get the results that he's needed this season compared to Van Hicks. Josh Brain currently 3rd. The return of a former champion in Phillip Lake, who turned up last time out in 4th position. Lundberg improves to a 28.5 and goes 4/10 clear nearly at the top. Does Aldris have a single thousandth of a second in the back pocket? All you need to do is cough and you will find that extra place. As now running through the final corner of turn number 12, he pushes right to the extremity of the circuit, and he will not be able to improve. So color me surprised, Ivan Platon has stolen the pole.
Absolute insanity. And remember, he gets the pole. He was the first one to set the time as well. And there is no discrepancies when we go to 4 digits, all on the threes. It is Platon fastest as we're seeing more drivers come along. Trengaray just coming by. I just want to point out, look how close it is in the GTOs. Noah Lundberg is 400th ahead of Van Hicks, who is then 5,000th ahead of P4. Just, I've never seen a GTO that close before as a Lesniak comes back in. Not the best of starts for him, but he will come 11th. There is Noel Lundberg. He doesn't need to do any more driving. This is just him getting some warm-up time.
Yep, Carlos Fonseca might be the only driver who can set a time to improve out there. He hasn't set a lap as of yet in the number 31 car, and pulls it to one side and says that will do. So qualifying is going to be stacked into the books then. Not much can be said except that. So now you say, well, who's on pole and who's managed what? And we'll take the opportunity to head on over to the starting grid here from Phillip Island as we watch the Rothmans-sponsored car out there. Very Williams-esque out there, that Audi Quattro there, the number 38 machine that was of Duncan Moraes, who was making that run through out towards turn number 11. But the pole is set for Ivan Platon on a 1:14.167. His front row driver is the driver who is always there, and on our timing screens we call it 1:68. Audrius Valenterius will have to work from second position to get the launch he wants. Henning Schwebig will start from third with Jack Wells in fourth position. Nicholas Mucanos and the ever comparable Ferran Grau goes from sixth. Jacob Reed had troubles in the iRacing Grand Prix Toys, a two-time champion in that series at Long Beach yesterday. He'll look to put past wrongs right as he now starts from seventh with Tomiya Inatani in eighth position. It's Brendan Lim who starts from ninth with Dylan Freckleton rounding out the top 10 in category, which leads us over the page to Christophe Olenijak, who goes from 11th, and Fabian Youngbluth in 12th position. Esteban Monteros starts 13th with Matthew Cockerham in 14th. Then follow Shady Ahmad and Eki Anderson in 16th position. Sander Verbrucher will go from 17th along with Andres Felipe Diaz. Vitas Jartso is there in 19th place, and the only driver not to set a time in category was the Midwest driver Lance Simon, who will have to go from 20th position overall. 27 names for you, Craig, as GTO had a very interesting qualifying.
Very interesting. Could you see the gap between P1 and P2? That's a bigger gap than the gap between P1 and P8 in the GTPs. Lundberg will be leading them off with Johan van Hicks beside him. And then it's Josh Brain in P3 with Philip Lake making his return again in P4. Then Johanny Kavanagh will be fifth with Andreas Schuster in sixth, followed by Ove Trengerade in seventh. Shane Hawkins will be eighth, Iker Costasalo in ninth, and Doug Cloud rounds out your top 10. As we get to the second page, it will be Seamus Power, who will be in 11th with Roman Bello in 12th. Ian Haycox will take that 13th, and Henry Morse will be 14th with Forman Pollock in 15th. Emilio Duchari, we talked about him, he's in 16th. Austin Farr will be 17th, and Martin Krajcik will take 18th. Then Paul Clavier and Duncan Morales will take the 19th and 20th spots respectively. We still got those 7 more drivers to go. Henry Viamaki will take 21st. Christopher Lobich will be 22nd. Then it's Jan Rinkelin in 23rd. Jamie Hamill-Smith in 24th. Alejandro Silvia Caride will be the last of the time, qualifies in 25th, with Carlos Fonseca and Luca Mossoni in 26th and 27th, respectively.
They will have a full pace lap here today to get themselves up to speed on this Phillip Island circuit, getting themselves ready. We are in just after 1:30 in sim time with a track that is as cold and as frigid as you could possibly imagine right now. Just 21 degrees Celsius here, the circuit. It is cold, and it will mean that these drivers have to wake up and know that it's a tough race. And it's also worth noting here today that they've got a northern wind that is coming along, so that is going to give them a tailwind as they come across the front stretch, and it will give them the run up to Lukey Heights. It'll be a headwind up to Lukey Heights. So that, in terms of how the circuit goes, possibly the best conditions you can find it, but it will make turn 2 an absolute nightmare as you go from crosswind to tailwind to crosswind.
Yeah, that's going to be horrible. Also, the final corners into 11 and 12. You think about that for a moment, you'll have a bit of a side wind as for the GTPs, you start to go flat on the throttle through 11. You come to 12 and you're still flat. And you just get that idea that you're going to be having the tailwind, then you'll be having it coming into you, and then you're just having a little bit of a crosswind as well. So that's going to be interesting to see out there today for these drivers. But as we mentioned, these GTPs will be doing a pit stop. I know Valenteus, he likes to be crazy sometimes and try and see if he can stretch it out. That's not happening today. These guys will take that pit, and that pit lane entry is always a little bit chaotic around here, I find.
Just hearing words then over the radio as one driver is a little bit concerned about how you take tyres, being Eki Anderson. And so Jamie Hamill-Smith over the radio says you should be able to take tyres. It's not a problem at all. But they now stack up in their two respective classes, giving the room as they traditionally do. The pace under the controllers, the iRacing Porsche first safety car for this series dives down the single track pit lane. Keep that in mind if any drivers need to pit. But it is the Iberian Platon who looks around at Valenteus, at Schwebig, at Jack Wells, who has victories in this series. Nicholas Mukanos and Ferran Grau, who also do as well. It is a star-studded field at the front of GTP, but as the green flag we wait drops, put the hour on the clock. Platon with a masterful jump to get off and away, and immediately it will now put Wells versus Mukanos in the book through turn 1 and heading over off of the Gardner Straight towards turn 2 as look at the swarm in GTO.
Yeah, look at the swarm in the GTO, a little bit of free wide, and that free wide's going to cause a little bit of chaos, and that's one of the cars gone off. It's Roman Bella, who's had a little bit of a moment. Henry Moore's been caught up as well. That's what's going to happen if you try and make it free wide at the start there. No drivers off injured. Paul Clavier's also had a moment, but they've all gone on pretty quickly. Everyone stayed alive for the moment. I say that, one more gone off. It's Luca Massini.
Yep, so that's down near the rear of the pack as Noel Lundberg under pressure. Van Hicks, oh, there's the big one that starts going through. Shane Hawkins across the road. Contact there with someone on the left-hand side of the track. I think that was Hervé Trengarade that he's tangled up with. So Trengarade down to the back of the group. A disaster, and now it continues here as there's Duncan Moraes running off the road there from Club Africa, South Africa, running off and away and having a lot of work to do now from 24th.
I think drivers, they're trying to find their lines and it's not working for them. Factor in that wind, a lot of drivers having some issues out there. Carlos Fonseca also having some issues, but we're looking at Cameron trying to regain some of that victories he's had. He's not had the best of starts. He's already down one position, looking for more, but that line from Josh Brain, not having the best of starts himself, down 2 already. You can see that this could be an early cork in the bottle. Cameron looks like he wants to get the run, just clips the grass a bit too much though.
Yeah, and so can't quite get the angle that's needed, and suddenly here's Jacob Reed picking up on a mistake from Ferran Grau, trying to go around the outside to make it happen at Miller Corner. He gets shuffled out, and there's no chance as they go through the small kink into Siberia to go strike back. So he has to fall into line in the traditional green and yellow out there that he is running, a livery that couldn't be more Worcestershire if he tried.
Well, unless he's got the sauce, I'm pretty sure that's the only other thing you could do. This is not the place he wants to be. 7th position. We know he's not the best when it comes to qualifying. Sorry, Jacob. Got to be truthful, though. It's not the best qualifying for him, and he realizes his biggest rival would be Valenteus, what the battle everyone wants to see. He's unable to get up there. He's already 4 seconds behind Platon. Really to get ahead, but to get ahead, look at the names he's got to get by. Everybody but 2 of those drivers ahead of him have a victory here in the GTPs.
Yeah, but you got to remember only one driver's had a victory, so to speak, of invincibility status, and that is Aldrius Valenteus, who's got 6 wins out of 6 that he started in this GTP field. As we take a look at Shane Hawkins and the issue, look, they've made contact even going through Casey Stoner, and then as he tries to gather it back, a car that has a lot of pliability, that GTO, straight back across and into Trengarade again.
It feels like he just got a bit too hot on the throttle and just corrected the wheels too early, and that's what caused that moment there for him. A bit unfortunate that what happened. He did a good job saving it, just not where he wanted it. Lake trying to get past Schuster. That little move, 1 into 2, it's so tough. You kind of want to go side by side just to try and make it work, but you cannot go around the outside of that southern loop. And now he's just going to have to set himself back up. But there's not a lot of straight here to use that cheese wedge to try and make some room.
Well, the Momo car of Josh Brain's going to have to be a little careful on the defence, as again the Glacier Racing car of Johanny Cameron looks. Austin Farr back there in 9th position. Hawkins still going about in 11th behind Emilio Dicciari in 10th. And now Valenteus closes in that gap with a fastest lap of the race, a 1:15.2. They're checking out at the front of GTP from Henning Schwebig in third, Jack Wells in fourth, and second in the championship, Nicholas Mukanos, who is there in fifth position. So pick the points up the way you want to. Valente is part of the 9K club and possibly the greatest classics racer of all time. And what he's done over the last 3 to 4 years, I think is putting him up on a level that even surpasses the likes of Gernot Fritzsche, for example.
I would love to see him one day go for the Triple Crown. That's a victory in all 3 classic races on a weekend. Doesn't do Sundays very often, so we never get to see that. He wants that 9K back, and he's going to have to chip away at it. He's going to do it in singles, my friend, as they say in cricket, and this is what he wants, and this is something he's probably happy with. He doesn't want to be the aggressor right now this early. Maybe he wants to use this slipstream to just save some fuel, just keep some clean space. He also knows very shortly they're going to be coming up to lap traffic. There's a back marker straight away. That shouldn't cause too much of an issue. He may just try to feel out this field. I know he's done more races this week, but he just wants to see what this field is like.
Lake down the inside and now looking to take third position away and manages it there on Andreas Schuster, who can only watch that move go at turn 4. And Cameron's behind, Brain, then Seamus Power in that group, and the next train behind that, Paulik, Farr, Dechari, Hawkins and Henry Morse on that one in the number 16 car. So you've got 2 very distinct packs forming at this stage. Your top 2 running away, but this seems to me like packs that will break away as traffic comes into play. Jack Wells then back down the inside. Mukanos took it away for a moment. Jack takes it back.
Yeah, Jack takes it back. Nice little fight here. I think a lot of these drivers just getting a little bit of a cross up here with the first set of lap traffic, and that may have just bunched up some of these cars as they come over the hill and down into MG. There's Valenteus. He gets a real good look of everybody coming around. Has to go around the outside, has to go to the inside. Where do you go, Platon? You have to hold it back. He gets onto the brake. They're waiting, they're holding on. There's not a place here for Valenteus to make an overtake just yet. They're going to have to go 3 wide very shortly, though.
It might be 4, because look at this run by Aldrius. He has to back out of it because of the 2 cars there of Jan Rickling and Henry Viamaki, who are both there. Now a big lunge from Platon down the inside around the Roman Bello, now trying to walk around the outside on the very extremity of this circuit, just getting by Martin Krajcik. There was an element of desperation in that from Ivan Platon, and he knows it's only going to get busier as they go. Suddenly, rush hour has struck in Australia, and it's all kicking off right behind Henning Schwebig.
And that's Jan Rinkin going off. He just took the escape route. Not a lot he could do, and you can start to see there was Jacob Reed trying to just look for some position. He may go around the outside here at Siberia, can't get it. Over-under's not there for him either. Got to wait there. You go too wide on some of these corners, the track, the gravel, the asphalt and the grass, the bank starts to slope down. You don't want to even touch the grass around here. That's why they're taking it a little bit more cautious as they go up and down and around the hill. Look at the rest of it, though. We've seen the middle of the front pack. This is the back of the front pack having their own traffic injuries.
Yeah, Farr and Paulik then finding their moves, and watch out because they're going to go either side of the traffic to get this done. And there's a block on the exit, nowhere to go for Ivan Platon. Aldrius, with all that wealth of experience, now takes the lead. They'll duel behind. Schwebig holds off Wells. Here comes Mukanos searching now at turn 1, but they're going to have to go around the outside. Jacob Reed, oh my word, what a pass.
Did he just do that? He absolutely just took that commitment. That's one of the only corners you have to have confidence. One's gone off the track there. The only confidence you've got to go around the outside of a GTO is turn 1. And now we see Iamani. He's having his own little fight. He wants a little bit of this as well, as he just tries to hold off and try to take on Fern Grau. They always talk about the traffic being chaotic the first time round. Well, you've got 27 GTOs on this tight track. It's always going to be chaotic.
Well, Paulik and Hawkins have come together at turn 4 at Jack Miller, so they've had a lot of trouble out there, but what fantastic bits of scrapping we're seeing through the traffic right now. They have to dance between the front couple of drivers there. That's Cameron and co. They're trying to get by. Oh, lock up! Big lock up. Jacob Reed's caught up. Now they're all going to jump down the bottom of the hill.
Big damage. Big damage for Jacob Reed. I don't think he's got suspension damage, but on a track that you need all the speed possible, he is holding on to what looks like a lot of damage to the front of that car. And I do see another car getting a black flag. It's Inatani. He was the one that made that slide. He had to go and take a report. And actually, Inatani in a different incident there has taken a lot of damage. And I also see Freckleton as well carrying a lot of damage.
That's happened on the front stretch for Dylan Freckleton. He's tried to get around there, the likes of Johanni Kamen, and he's tapped him going on the exit of the final corner. 2 massive hits into the pit side wall, and that's brought troubles in. But Tomoya Inatani with the black and orange mechanical flag, which will indicate he must come down in to repair the damage after being caught completely out by all of the massive chain reaction. He was one of the last ones into the incident, and as such, by insurance claims, he's got to pay all the money.
I see Andreas Schuster got caught in that. I saw Ferenc Grau caught in that. I saw Cameron get caught in that. Josh Bray managed to get around it, but you've never seen such a bad time to get a big incident like that. A small moment sets a chain reaction off, and when you're in the traffic like that, at one of the slowest corners on the track, that's always going to happen. Eki Anderson also just having to tow for a separate incident himself. These are the GTOs now. Everyone's just a little bit out of shape now. These are the closest battles we've got.
Yeah, so this is Henry Morse, who is at the front of this group now with Power, Cloud, and Ian Haycox there behind. And Ian Haycox, of course, a really interesting driver to keep in mind. He does have to race with a disability out there after a motorcycle accident, I believe it was, and as such does struggle with the longevity of races. I'd say 40 minutes is his bread and butter, but you put it to an hour and it starts to stress the limits of what he's capable of.
Yeah, and this is the question. Is it so tough just to be able to? He's got one leg, and the one leg is used for the pedal, but he has to also then use his hands for control to do the other pedal, and that is such a challenge as well. In fact, even more when you think these GTOs, you heel toe to do downshifts in some of these cars because you have to blip, and it's so tough for him. But just to be able to even be fighting in this field just goes to show the strength of the driver, the skill of the driver. And here he goes to make a move. He made the move. Here's the replay. Jack Wells had to have that have that moment. Nowhere for Jacob Reed to go. Nowhere for him to go, and it just started that chain reaction.
Well, nowhere for everywhere to go. We didn't quite see just how badly it jumped up there in the middle of the circuit. I'm sure a second replay would give a huge indication, maybe from Inatani's perspective, might be interesting to go see how that works out. But it does now really open up this field because for the moment, Noel Lundberg clear of Joran van Hicks, Philip Lake on his own now in at 3rd position, but you got 4th and 5th, you got now 6th on his own, but Henry Morse and co, this is 7th and 8th in the group behind. It's just starting to form into their own group of 2 here, group of 2 there, and there's Elena Jacques, who's now starting to bring a chance to make a move. And that is going to be a pass on Esteban Monteros. Welcome to the top 10.
Yeah, back in the top 10, not had the best of starts today. Just trying to see what he can do. Up ahead is a slow Jacob Reed. Not a lot he can do. He has the ability through the corners, but on the straights, it's so tough for him. He is still battling here in this battle with Shady Ahmad. Now the straight will start to open up. This is where Ahmad will be able to get a lot of run here. And you've got to see Jacob's trying to make that car wider than a London double-decker bus. And he's able to do it for now. But you've got to feel he'll be coming into the pits at the first opportunity.
Yeah, this is strugglesome at the moment for Jacob Reed, but I think he's made his bed and he's got to lie in it here right now with the damage that he's got. And in fact, he is going to jump into the pit, see what he can get. It's one of the tightest runs in, and you don't want to be behind a different category of car as you jump on in. Just the 72 kilometers an hour down the lane as we go back to Roman Bello, who is down in 15th position in class at the moment here. And we'll take a look. This is Inatani's view of it. Look, it's junked up in front. There's nowhere to go. You got fast cars, slow cars, and then everybody dog piles on in.
Yeah, I know he's flashing his headlight to tell that GTO, I'm making the overtake, just be prepared. Don't think he was prepared to see what he was going to see over the top of the hill. And over the top of the hill, he saw all that chaos. Where do you brake? At some points, you get the yellow flag. If you're there a little bit early, it's hard to see that yellow flag, and I think that might have been what cost him there. Just unfortunate what has happened to him as we keep on watching Craytrick hit one more replay. This is Freckleton. You don't go around the outside of that corner, and there shows why you don't go around the outside.
Yeah, very tough, and ultimately running out of road because you've got to struggle through the corners in the GTOs to get that room. Trengarade, the tiny tap with Martin Krejcik, the two knowing each other very well over many years of racing together. They find themselves with those moves. Behind Emilio Dicciari, they are looking for that. Romain Bello, of course, on the back of this group, but I tell you what, as they go up, Krejcik is still going to have to be defensive right now, looking at Romain Bello, who does not make the move up into turn number 4 of Jack Miller. So for Bello, it's a case of, can I sit down and get myself some momentum, even get myself a little bit of fuel out there? That will be good. Behind them, Ilka Cotasalo trying to close up in the Pac-Man car.
Yeah, and you've got to Phil Cotasalo making a good recovery after that lap 1 incident, but ahead of Bello right now, he's seeing these two, Trengarade and Dicciari. Trengarade making his own little recovery up there, but this is Bello. He's looking for an opportunity. Up this hill so tough. You have to get on those brakes. You have to start worrying about that. And then you come down that hill and you just go for the move. There's a GTO slow in front. It's Forbin Pollock. I wonder if he's had a mischief, because now all of a sudden this is a 5-car battle. Pollock, Dicciari, Trengarade, Krejcik, Bello, all together, at the leader of the GTPs comes around one more time.
Yeah, and that will be Aldrius Valenterius, who is 2 seconds to the good and is getting the better of the traffic right now. Now using the traffic as a pit goes Hervé Trengarade, diving down the inside of Emilio Dicciari and getting it done. Now here comes the driver in the 12. It's Ivan Platon trying to work her way through. Big decisive cut to the inside, clears 4 of the 5, waits for the exit and drives away, and that gives Torben Paulik then a little bit of time to work with, because you need a little bit of help out there on track to give yourself some margin, and as such, margin's made. Next one's going to dive through. Henning Schwebig now joins the group in 3rd.
Yeah, Henning Schwebig getting up, getting closer now, because Platon had to hold up there. Probably lost about half a second, maybe a second at worst, getting held up from the last car on the exit there of the Southern Loop. And that allows Schwebig to really get closer. Mechanos also following him as we keep on board still with Krejcik. You start to see this is one of the toughest parts of the track when it comes to multi-class, because at one moment you're on the right side of the track, then you want to be on the left, you want to be back on the right to start coming down here for the left, and then you just hope and hope that no one goes for a late break here down the hill. It's so tough to miss your braking point and overshoot down that hill into MG. Thankfully, knock on wood, apart from that one accident, no one's done that today.
But you've got to remember, when you get into a section like that, the GTOs actually have more mechanical grip than the GTP, so in the slower corners, they're actually quicker. They gain all of their pace thanks to the aerodynamics out there, as here comes Cotasalo, looking to make that move on Romain Bello for position to the inside, searching, backs out of it, as zooming around, 1, 2, 3, 4 for Fabian Youngblood, and there's Torben Paulik, who's just lost the place then to Hervé Trengarade, so definitely diving on through, just enough of a lunge by Youngblood on the exit to run away, but look at what Youngblood's got. Elena Jacques there, and still Shadi Ahmad, who almost gets the nose chop there with Torben Paulik going through, so it is a very dicey mid-pack of this race right now, and everybody is pretty much a Wild West, all to yourselves as you go on by with a slow, it looks like number 40 car in the midst of all of this. So that's Paul Clavier, who has had to deal with a disconnect out there, trying to recover through the pack.
Yeah, not what everyone wants to see. A disconnect would be there. Lesniak trying to find a way. There's a car gone off the track, and that looks like a very big need. Yes, Youngblood, who's had a big moment there. Sorry, not Youngblood, who's had the moment. We'll get that checked out in a moment. One car just going off. It was actually Doug Cloud, and that's a big incident there. It just felt like, again, that switch around that we were talking about last lap has happened on that track, and one person had to pay the price. It's Doug Cloud, and he does have that mechanical black flag.
Well, he wasn't being predictable out there. He thought about moving to the inside. He thought against moving and holding his line. And ultimately, it left nothing there for Fabian Youngblood to go. He ultimately runs up the back of him. And Doug Cloud has to jump down into the pits with damage. And that just goes to show you, we say it every time, be predictable. This is some of the craziest traffic there. And look at the car in front of Romain Bello as Dylan Freckleton decides he's going to go exploring the extremities of this circuit. He might go sailing if he goes that far off the track at this stage, but I look around at drivers who are trying to hold together with what they've got, and it's about making sure that the front of any car that you've got is in a nice position. Martin Krajcik is walking wounded.
Yeah, Krajcik looks like he may need to visit the dentist after that. I think Rexy may know someone that can help him get those fronts fixed, but unfortunately, that is the nature. And again, let's bring this back. 27 GTOs as we look at Jan Rinkin go for a move here in the battle of the back of the pack here, battling with Jamie Hamill-Smith, who gets the inside, and he's gone a bit too wide there, maybe losing another position. He comes back to it. He's not going to, and he does with the other position. Yeah, 27 GTOs out here today. We've already lost 5 GTPs off the lead lap. So that just goes to show this traffic is still very tough out there for these drivers. Probably the toughest they've ever had to do for a broadcast race around Phillip Island.
Oh, it is very difficult, and around the GTO leader goes Fabian Youngbluth and, of course, Christopher Lenejak in the Leighton House Inspire cars, but it's going to be a case of I run wide from Fabian, who by running wide then has to drop the time and then repass Joram van Hik, who was second overall, so the championship leader. This is Youngbluth's perspective, and you can see here, thinking about it, and I don't think that view gives as much justice to the amount of movement that was done there by Doug Cloud. At that moment, you think, oh, Doug's just run up the back, Fabian's just run up the back of him. And Fabian has a second moment, also almost running up the back of Lenejak there going by. So that would have put more troubles into play. But it goes to show you, you've got to think at a level that most drivers do not have the capacity to.
You've got to make that split-second decision, and that comes back to, like you were saying, pretty predictable. And if you just see a small tweak there, you're going to start to make that hesitation move, and that could have also just what happened there for Fabian. Just that small hesitation may have just caused that incident there. So who knows what happened there. There'll probably be some words said after the race. It's just one of those multi-class moments that you do get to see a lot of the time here. There's no multi-class moments here at the moment as Igor Costa-Salo watches Krajcik and Bello start to go almost side by side ahead of them. And I see a lot of smoke up ahead. Drivers going off ahead of them. I think that was Paul Clavier trying to get out of the way of some of the other cars. Brain now trying to go side by side with Bello. But I don't think there's going to be anything else left here. Remember, they still got to go 38 minutes. We're now in a full IMSA Vintage race length.
Well, Josh Brain has actually come in to make a stop, which I think is strategy here, Craig.
I don't think he realizes... Well, no, he realizes he can't make the no-stopper. With all this fighting, you can't make the no-stopper. Look at the guys at the front. So he's trying to do an undercut here to try and catch off some of these guys in this battle. I reckon he can go as high up as maybe into the top 10 now with that undercut if no one reacts to him. Real good decision there from him, because look how tight everybody is at the moment. Even when they come breaking up here from Miller Corner, they've all bunched up once again.
Well, you've got to remember here with Josh Brain and the way he's got to get this done, it is long in terms of how much fuel you've got to put in the car. This isn't like a modern pit crew that you've got. You don't have the luxury of chucking on a fuel hosel and saying, right, just drive as much fuel as you can in. This is old school. You've got to get the fuel jugs out.
Get the fuel jugs out. We're even at the time where you may even need to do your own little service. Remember the old days of F1, they had to actually clean themselves off there. But this is some of what the drivers have to do. Just do a little bit of help for each other there. And remember, it is a free tyre stop for them if they do have that time. And you can see Makanos, he doesn't want any more time. He really wants to try and make this move onto Henning Swebeg. Can't make it done. Has to now just reset here as they try to go around one and only one of these 3 GTOs. But they're in this little battle. Moraes and Hamill-Smith now, they're going to make their decision. And that's the hesitation that Makanos did not need.
Yeah, Duncan Moraes there was the driver that you had a little bit of worry about, because Moraes held the middle of the road, didn't know which way to go, moved over and tried to leave room, but ultimately his eyes and his hands were not as quick as the movements there that went on by of Nicolas Mucanos. We'll take a look at Esteban Monteros. Car off in the background firstly, a little bit of netco contact there with Krajcik, and that will be where the damage came into play. So that cost the Floridian there a bit of time, and that's over towards Lukey Heights, a very scary place to have a moment like that happen.
Yeah, it's probably the tightest part of the track when you think about the speed as well. just having to try and keep that speed up around that section. You go up the hill, up to Lukey Heights, and just have that moment onto the gravel. It's not the beach you want to be on here when you think about we're right next to the ocean. But unfortunately, it's the beach that he got stuck in, was able to get back out, but just goes to show, just a small moment can change everything when it comes around the multi-class. And I said we've lost 5 drivers off the lead lap in the GTPs. We keep on watching Mechanos and Swebeg. We've only lost 4 drivers, it looks like, off the lead lap for the GTOs.
Big mistake by Austin Farr, and now the race leader overall moves over to the inside to try and dance on by. Farr keeps the foot in. Then as he goes through the opening corner, Shane Hawkins, nothing he can do. Trengaray trying to join on this. This is 8th, 9th and 10th at the moment in GTO. And the lunge then from Hawkins on the inside catches the number 7 napping. So nothing there for Austin Farr, who's now going to have to go the long way around when it comes to turn 3 at Casey Stoner. They've got to work out where you go. Straight to the inside, big pinch. There's contact as they walk on through. Farr's got his place. Oh, it's huge damage on a car in front there. Looks like that's going to be one of them there. Andres Felipe Diaz. Lance Simon, I think, has been caught out with Ian Haycox.
Yeah, it looks like Ian Haycock just caught into a little bit of a moment coming out of the corner and got touched under. He actually got contact with Henry Morse there. I wonder if it was just a miscommunication. We'll look at that later on in a replay because the battling is still happening. Andre Felipe Diaz trying to pull away from Lance Simon, and he's on the back of this as well. But all of a sudden, just another moment, concertinas everybody up. And I think I counted 4 different cars in that one moment there just for one accident.
Yeah, Lance Simon with damage, and in comes Haycox, I would also assume, with a bit of damage to try and avoid all the dramas. Oh, goodness me. Austin Farr having to be very, very cautious between 3rd and 4th as they split the difference. Look to the inside from Buchanos, not there as he sits and waits with Henning Schwebig. Buchanos, one of those drivers who we always know is quick. We always say Nicholas Buchanos is quick. But Nicholas Buchanos is the sort of driver who is podium potential every time he goes out there. His consistency is his strongest trait.
Yeah, we could do Nicholas Mechanos facts like it's Chuck Norris facts, but the truth is, this is the driver that's had a lot of time. He's gone a bit too deep. How has he held that up? Well, to hold that up, he's had to get contact with Henning Swebeg. Not the way he wanted that, and hopefully none of the drivers getting any major incidents there. But that just goes to show he really felt he had pace, and he went for a late break there. I just feel that wasn't the right move. Here's the big moment here with Ian Haycock. I believe that was Ian Morse there. It feels like Henry's not turned in, and then Ian gets a bit locked up there together, loses control of the grass. He can't do a lot when he's on the grass, and the car just veers off into the line of that GTP.
Yeah, Lance Simon's not going to be very pleased about an incident like that happening as down the hill, Jack Wells trying to recover back down from 15th position and a lap down. That's Sander Verbrucher, who he's got to try and get by the number 34 car in all plaid orange at the moment with the black stripe in front. Henry Morse is the car that they have got to try and clear and manage to. And now along the front stretch, you look at what's in front of that as well. A lap ahead of them, Ferran Grau. Here comes Jack Wells, straight down to the inside. Easy as you like. Off for the Gardner straight and through Mick Doohan corner.
Remember, he had to take some repairs. He took 1 minute and 10 in the pits, cone to cone. So that puts him down a lap. He may get some of these positions back. You look, he's looking at a top 10, just looking at the rest of the field that will have to pit. So he still had a good result. But remember, he started 4th, not where he wants to be. Fabian Jumluff, though, is trying to hold and keep this battle going. But still, he cannot find a way past Lesniak. Lesniak now up into 7th. Real good drive here. These are the top movers of the day. 4 places each for these 3, because behind him is Esteban Montero, 17 seconds back.
Well, I love the classic liveries that we've got here going on with these drivers, because I look around, it's a mock-up Leighton House against the mock-up Toyota Minolta.
Don't you just love it? Don't you just love that the drivers just do what they want with these liveries? And to be fair, it's great that it's classic livery shake. It's not like we're seeing a modern day F1 livery on these cars, because I think I may need to just uninstall some programs or maybe put some eye bleach on if I saw that.
Well, I'm sure we can see some liveries out there that aren't necessarily the nicest out there for the eyes, but I'd say it's beautiful what the Classic Series does. You've also got there Brendan Lim, who's doing very well in 6th position, running the Silk Cut Jaguar livery out there too, so he's doing a great job. There is Andreas Schuster in 4th position right now, trying to keep himself afloat in a race like this. He's got the wonderful GTO there that's being shown, but in front of him is still Juhani Kamanen, and that will be for the last spot on the podium in category. Lundberg to a 5.5-second run over Van Hicks, but this is Phillip Lake. Oh, that is a massive swipe going through the opening corner, and Lake ultimately finds himself in a case of Imagine Drago Zanardo, take me to the beach.
Yeah, and that is why Schuster is up ahead of Phillip Lake right now, because of that one moment. He's going to have to do a bit of a recovery drive, but it's going to be tough to find those 6 seconds.
Oh, Lim.
Looks like a bit of a spin up ahead indeed, and it's Brendan Lim who's gone off there, having a bit of a moment, and he's done that on his own, gone a bit too wide. In fact, he was forced 3 wide from a Standard Brugge there, who decided to take up all the track while he was trying to go around a GTO.
Well, this is the thing. Brendan Lim can protest and say, what are you doing going side by side at Lukey Heights? It's his responsibility to get around those 2 pieces of lap traffic safely. So, that's why. Because he pushes over to the right-hand side, nowhere to go, and it puts him out on the gravel that has been deposited back out there onto the circuit, and sees him spinning off then in the grass at one of the most loaded sections of this circuit. So I can see where Brendan Lim's coming from with his anger as he went through, because that was a case of, I did not see where you go. In comes Juhani Kamanen at the half hour.
Yeah, that was the point of, I've made my decision, I'm overtaking you. Why are you giving all the track? There's enough room there just for 3 wide. Shouldn't be that. And that is also, even if it's the same class that you're in, you've always got to pay attention to that relative when you're starting to get to this part of the race, because those things can happen, unfortunately. Thankfully for Brendan, he's still alive, didn't hit anything, but the time he lost, he's now 13 seconds behind Fabian Jumlev, and I think he lost more than just those 13 seconds, and that just goes to show how bad it is for him.
Well, here is Fabian Youngbluth, who looks around at Christoph Olenizak and hopes to find any way forward here. 14 versus 15. They are similar on iRacing. They are similar out there in pace. And here comes Fabian to the inside, and that is as easy as it goes. And to show how quick they're going, that was 303 kilometers an hour into turn number 1. That is a rocket ship. And remember, these cars are the 80s. They're 40 years old. You're holding on for dear life when you touch the brakes.
Not only that, you can also hear the squeak of the turbo. Just goes to show how much power they're putting down there, and that's why you have to be careful getting on the throttle here. But once it's rolling, that's it. And these things are fantastic when following a car. Once you pull out of that slipstream, though, you hit that wall, and the wall just says no. He had to make the right time to go for that position. He's done it. Up ahead will be 2 lap GTPs. Got to be careful now. He's got a really good position. Now he's just got to try and cement this position, try and pull away now from Lesniak.
And if he can manage that, that's going to be a little bit of safety. They've got about 11 seconds out there to the likes of Ferran Grau. Now here comes the lunge. Shane Hawkins now down the inside, hoping to get the move done. Shadi Ahmad watches this right now as Austin Farr is the driver who is having to really battle out there. Give credit to Shane Hawkins, number 36. On the car. Oh no! Shadi Ahmad tried to go for a gap that didn't exist. 360 no scope.
I thought for a moment we cursed the man, but no, Shane did nothing wrong there. That was shady. He put himself in a position he should not have put himself in. He self-picked, moved himself there, and unfortunately, he tries to go for it. He would have had a call of car right. No idea what he was doing there. It's a self-hit maneuver there for Shadi Ahmad, and I don't know how much damage he picked up, but I'm pretty sure that might be a race ender.
No, he's okay. He avoided any barriers, and he immediately blasts on by, and I'm sure he'll flash his lights as he goes by these drivers and goes, I'm not too pleased with how that one ended out. Doesn't have one binded by the looks of it, as Farr holds with Hawkins, holds with Trengarade. very difficult heading through the hay shed there because you naturally want to pivot over to the right. But, oh, straight off the road. Austin Farr's outbroken himself in the southern loop.
You could say he's gone near far, but wherever you are, it's not on the track. And unfortunately, he's lost it. But the good thing is, he slowed that down in time, because that's one of those places where if you go too wide on the exit of the southern loop, it's a downhill bank, and it can catch you and drag you to the beach. And I don't mean the sand, I literally mean the beach past the tire barriers. He's very lucky with that. And now we look at what's happened to Noel Lundberg as he tries to get around, as he had contact here with one of the other cars.
No, he's just dropped it. Oh, that's incredible. How do you drop that on the exit of MG? He just gets tyres up on the AstroTurf and loses grip. Joran van Hicks leads. No, Lundberg, that is amateur from a driver of his caliber. He never makes that mistake.
Well, you just said it. He never makes that mistake. He's one of those drivers that you know is one of the top drivers in the series, and if he makes a mistake, anyone can make a mistake. We're talking about the man here who's battling for P2 in the championship. To make such a mistake like that is a shock, and I do wonder what has happened there. Has he just got a bit too wide, or did he get too hot on the throttle as even Platon comes into the pits?
A little bit of A and a little bit of B, and seeing there the likes of yes, Platon in the pit, it does mean that we are firmly now into strategy mode. Hervé Trengarade now up into 5th position, but no, Lundberg, oh my goodness, he'll be damaged now for the rest of this race. They don't have a fast repair, which is effectively your T-car, so to speak, where you can jump on through. Trengarade now 5th in category, eyeing up Shane Hawkins here with Austin Farr on the back now of this group. What a recovery from Trengarade, who, remember, he and Hawkins came together on the opening lap of the race.
Yeah, they come together at the opening lap of the race. Maybe that's helped him as well, because he may have been able to save a bit of fuel going through this field. So the question is, can he do the no-stopper? I think we look at Trengarade as a driver who could possibly do that. So going to be interesting to see what he does. If he attacks Hawkins, you know the answer is he doesn't have the fuel. If he decides to hold back a little bit, you know that an option is, well, I'm just going to keep on fighting. But also, give a shout out to Austin Farr, making a little bit of recovery here as well. He's up 11 places, even after having that moment.
Yeah, and if you do have a moment on circuit, you do need to have that mental reset that we've talked about. And this is a series where you look around us, we've got the likes of Noel Lundberg now down in the pits, that you've got to have an elephant's memory for who goes and wrongs you in a race, but you've also got to have a memory of a goldfish when something goes wrong for you.
Got to have that memory to just make sure you make the adjustments the next time by, and I think that's one of the things that Austin Farr has done. He's not making that mistake again. He's not going wide. Trengarade has now watched Hawkins a few laps. If he wants to look for a move, he's got an idea of where he could look for a move, but I don't think he's going to be waiting for it yet. The top 7 now have not pitted. Noel Lundberg came in to get some damage repaired, and I don't think he got a lot of damage repaired. He's come straight back out, and he's behind Cameron and Schuster, who was behind him before the pit stops.
Yeah, and I've looked around at those who made a stop, and Jacob Reed is only 4 seconds off the back of Ivan Platon. So Reed might have a statement here to say that he can get back in this race and give himself a chance. Trengarade round the outside of Lukey, trying to get it done. Up over the top of the crest, the biggest braking zone down the hill. MG is one of the best corners in the world.
Well, I know when watching clips of you doing clips of this track, it is one of the best places to make moves in motor racing, just with how that downhill just goes for you there. And it works so well if you've got the right cars and you haven't got the weight on the back of the cars like these GTOs do. And it just goes to show, you make a move there, it's a great move. It's a highlight. You got to get it stuck, though, because you don't want to go side by side. And I think that's what Trengarade tried to avoid. How did he not collide with Diaz there?
Well, Andres Felipe Diaz trying to work hard. That's Luca Massini, who is very upset currently over the in-game chat as he allows Lim and Farr and Trengarade and Hawkins to go and get their laps. He's really struggling out there here. And there is Brendan Lim trying to dance by this group as they now look to lunge again into the next section. Here goes Farr lunging once more, but drive off the exits there for Trengarade. Left the door open, which was the best scenario to do. But Trengarade covers the inside here at Siberia because you've got to go all the way out to Siberia and back to go and get through the corner and away again. It's the furthest section on the circuit from the pit, and then through the big right of the hayshed, up the hill. Hawkins had to lift out of it there for Jan Rinklin, who's lap chuck in front, and bingo, Ove picks one up, and will it be two down the hill as Austin Farr has a sniff at MG? No, but they are starting to bang. Panel to panel, round goes Shano.
You know, I wonder if that's the case that Shane was just being a little bit hesitant around the lap traffic, because that was 2 moments there for him, and it all stemmed from that one lapped car of Jan Rinklin, who is just coming by right now. It just feels like he could have got on the throttle. He is on the radio. I can't hear what he's saying because I'm talking over him. I wonder if it also another factor, was it not a missed gearbox?
I just heard the greatest line ever coming from a driver from Austin Farr. If I've made contact with you, it's probably your fault.
Well, that just goes to show how the heat on the track is at the moment. It's not a hot track out there, but the racing's hot. We're only at 70 Fahrenheit track temp, 21 Celsius is that in the track. Valenteus still leading, 20 minutes to go. And you know that weather, that wind has now started to move northeasterly, and it's still the same power.
Well, northeast, that's going to be a cross tailwind on the front stretch, a direct tailwind into turn 2, and a headwind up towards turns 3 and 4. So Valenteus has been flawless. He has won 8 races out of 8 this season, 6 in this category, 2 in GTO. And you look around and you think he's completely invincible in terms of these cars. He was vincible in this race for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, to think he wasn't even leading when they started the race, and he still managed to get the win. We've always said, who can stop Valenteus? Only one driver has really scared him. It's Jacob Reed. Where's Jacob Reed? He's got caught in an accident today, and it's those drivers that are able to keep on going and keep on the battle of attrition that win, and that's what Valenteus does. One thing the drivers mentioned last week was no one noticed Valenteus when he lapped the traffic at Spa. That was how efficient he was. That just goes to show the nature of a driver. We talked about it. He was in the 9K club. He's trying to get that 9K back. Forever, though, he will be a 9K driver. And I think you said it best, Jay. He might be the greatest classic driver on the sim.
Well, I look around at him and what he's capable of doing, and no one even comes close to the level that he's hitting currently. He's been a 10-year professional, 12-year professional, actually, I could say, here within iRacing, and Classics is where he's found his home. He was racing back in the days, 2013, against the likes of Alexia Loma, for example, who went on and was very instrumental when the Blancpain GT Championship was a thing here in iRacing. So he has mixed it with the best and beaten the best out there. He is just that good out there. And so I turn around and say, well, who goes next? Emilio Dicciari has got Andreas Schuster, who's gone through on him on this lap. You've also got Juhani Kamanen to keep in mind. All those cars in front have to make a pit stop. Noel Lundberg, by comparison, worth talking about, has come out behind Schuster and Dicciari and Kamanen.
Now Phillip Lake comes into the pit, so that means it's just the top 5. Well, actually, Dicciari as well will make it 6. 6 of the top 10 yet to pit in the GTO, so keep that eye up. And Phillip Lake, he's just in for a splash and dash. He's going to be losing a couple positions here. We're watching Lesniak come on by. He's yet to pit as Ferenc Grau ahead of him comes into pit, and now in this final moment here, remember, we've now gone past the length of a normal IMSA Vintage race. We're in extra time. We're in overtime right now, and this is where the battle of attrition and the mental fatigue will start to kick in if you're not used to a 60-minute race.
Well, if this were ice hockey, we'd be into the third period of this game at this stage as Fabian Youngblood takes a big power move on Haycox, and look at how deadly it is to turn 2. That was Christoph Löblich, who they had to try and avoid there with Ian Haycox and co. Matthew Cockerham, 1 lap down, is there in front of them. So there is certainly indication in this race, and I use the word very heavily here, indication that this is a race where battles will go down to the line. It's a circuit that naturally brings it together, and Elena Jacques here seeing them start to just bottle up behind Henry Morse. Right now it's a case of, can you get the escape? And the answer is yes. Now how do you get by Cockerham, who's part of your own class?
Yeah, how do you get by him? Because he has to be careful because he's got the GTO traffic ahead as well. So he's just got to make sure he doesn't have that similar moment to what Brendan Lim had earlier in the race. And he's had to do a desperation dive onto Cockerham to get by him at MG. And now look at the gap he's got between himself and Olesniak. He's got to get past this car, which is Noel Lundberg, and he can't do it. And you see that straight into the pits there for one of those drivers. That was Fabian Youngblood. That might be a crucial overtake for him because the gap he got, 3 of the top 5 into the pit. Balateas,
full of smoke. That's a lot of smoke for Henning Schwebig as he hit the brakes to try and make that stop. So he really, really had to go through it. And look at that from Henning Schwebig. Look at how much time he's lost. Fabian Youngblood has been caught speeding on the lane. He's got a black flag penalty.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Look how aggressive he was trying to make that move and then going into the pit. And I do feel that might have cost him there. Ferenc Grau now having his own little battle with Jacob Reed. And he's just holding on now as Jacob. And onto the 007 camera we go. This is what he needs to experience. He needs to hold it by. He needs to just keep on fighting. What a recovery this could be for Jacob Reed. He's already up to 6. Balateas into the pit. So Lesniak to pit. I feel Jacob Reed, he could be on for a podium here.
He's very much there for a podium. Audrius Valenterius is down in the lane currently, and he will look to pull away in the next 10 seconds or so with drivers around him. So this is where you start thinking about where Jacob Reed puts himself under the 4 and 20 sign there of one of the greatest pie makers out there in Australia. Up and over the top they go. Valenterius, by comparison, he's already gone. He's already through turn 1. Platon and co are there just going through MG and now turn 11. There's a car off in front of them, which is Andres Felipe Diaz, who speeds in front of them. Jacob Reed, completely demolished. Grau, demolished.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me once, shame on me. Jacob Reed, for the second time this race, has had to try and avoid a car, and there's no time for him to avoid it. Ferenc Grau will go and take the tow. The damage on Jacob, oh my word, it's a carbon copy of what it was half an hour ago, Jake.
The difference maker, though, is the black and orange mechanical flag is out for Jacob Reed, and he will be a retiree around this one. And this greatest weekend of motorsport right now might be the greatest nightmare of sim racing for Jacob Reed. I don't think he's had a worse weekend in a very long time.
We also got to see Phillip Lake here. He was not battling here, but this is Clavier trying to make a move around Clavier, and they do touch. And he's having to go, that would allow him to try and go around the outside of the Miller corner, not the position he wants to be. So he's not trying to set up for that overtake, but Clavier just being the wrong side there. Lap traffic just goes to show what can happen with the lap traffic. So unfortunate for Phillip. He was trying to make a recovery drive. He's now stuck.
Oh no. Elena Jacques caught speeding as well. So that's 2 that have been caught speeding in the lane. So Elena Jacques with the free kick, he's just giving it right back.
Well, Jake, what did I just say about Balateas? It's a battle of attrition, and he's the man that doesn't take the risk. He knows what he's doing. And look what's happened. People he should be fighting have shot themselves in the foot, to say it politely, with speeding penalty. Such a rare mistake to see 1 in a race. Okay, to see 2 in a race? Remember, they don't have pit speed limiters. They have to do this manually, control it themselves, and that's a really weird mistake for 2 drivers today.
Well, Elena Jacques missed it by about 40 kilometres an hour. We'll take a look with Ferenc Grau's perspective. Car spins, Jacob Reed. A perfect decision from Ferenc Grau to make that immediate move to the right. The one thing he couldn't predict there was that Andres Diaz there was going to move right back across the circuit after that first piece of contact there. Ferenc Grau will be desperately unlucky to be out of this race, but it will be profiteering for drivers like this. Jack Wells finding himself up there. And I'd also like to point this out. Ivan Platon has been overcut in the stops by Henning Schwebig and Nicholas Mukanos.
An overcut is such a weird one to talk about as Valenteas goes faster once again, but it's crazy just to show the traffic not working there. You think about where Platon's had to go for moves. Schwebig now in a really good position to try and just hold off and get this podium. It's going to be tough now. Even Platon is a very good driver. Takes it free wide as Fonseca and Karide try to go around there. That could be vital because look at the time he's gained over Platon.
Yeah, Alejandro Silva and Carlos Fonseca breathe a sigh of relief through the opening corner. Free wide is always sketchy at the best of times, and they were able to hold themselves to a point out there. I do want to note we do only have a couple of drivers now who are yet to pit. Far, Trengerade, and this driver who leads, Joram van Hicks, who has got a massive margin at the front of this field, and this might be one of the most topsy-turvy GTO categories we've had in a little bit, but it does have same old predictable Joram van Hicks staring down the barrel of a third win this season.
Well, I do wonder about Austin Farr, because Austin Farr is currently P2. He's battling Trengerade at the moment. Now, Austin isn't a driver we know in the series. Is he going to do the no-stopper? Trengerade at this point in the race, I think he's committed to it. I think he's got the opportunity. He's a driver that can do it. As I say that, Austin goes into the pit. Trengerade goes into the pit. My curse, two men there. That has basically given the win to Van Hicks. Knock on wood, he keeps it straight. Knock on wood, he keeps it safe. And knock on wood, these two haven't done any speeding penalties. They haven't.
No, so Austin Farr has a very early pit box in comparison to Hervé Trengerade. Remember, Farr started 37th. Overall, he started 10 places behind Hervé Trengerade. Jumps him in the stop quite comfortably. Actually, it's peachy how much he's taken less compared to his rival out there. The California kid absolutely flying there. And car number 7 can start rushing. There goes Brendan Lim. There goes those around. And I'm looking around to see who's potentially gone through. Johanni Kamanen, by comparison, I look around here. I think he's got himself not a million miles away here. So who's around that can make something? Dachari, Noel Lundberg, he's not a million miles away from him.
No, he's not a million miles away. And I'm also looking, the gap between Cameron and Van Hicks, 36.8 seconds. Van Hicks is not doing a pit stop at the moment. And with 9 minutes to go, the question now is, are you going to the end? As we keep watching Jack Wells battling with Brendan Lim. And these drivers have had it in the battles today. They've been here, there, and everywhere, and they're still here battling. They're two of the last cars on the lead lap, and they're trying to hold on 2 seconds ahead. Shady Ahmad, the plus 10 guy for the day. And I wonder, what has Jack got left in his bag of tricks? At the head, he's seen Ahmad have a bit of a lockup.
Well, I want to go to second, third, and fourth in GTP because look at the gaps between them now. It's a second between Mukanos and Schwebig as here comes the launch from Jack Wells to go and get this move on Brendan Lim. Front stretch, he'll look for it over on the Gardner Straight towards McDoohan corner. And on the inside, Brendan Lim's going to try and fight this one, but he's going to be out of road. There's the difference in speeds as Andreas Schuster has to just leave the slimmest of margins. There's Henning Schwebig in third. There is Nicholas Mukanos in second, who he's trying to get by. And both of them being hunted right now by Ivan Platon.
Yeah, Platon's had a really good recovery. No! Schwebig just goes into the back of Roman Bello. No idea what has happened there. We keep our eyes on Christopher Lesniak. That could be some big damage. What is the damage there for Schwebig? It's a mechanical black flag. Now, that's a weird one. That's the line he's got to take, but he knows there's cars there. What was happening there for him? I don't know, but he can't fight this battle anymore. He has to come into the pits.
I'm stunned. I am absolutely stunned by that decision by Henning Schwebig. Here comes Ivan Platon, and he should make mincemeat of this one down the inside into Jack Miller corner. He does. But Henning Schwebig was trying to thread the gap down the inside to give himself the pick on Mukanos and completely misjudged the gap there, Craig.
completely misjudged the gap. I think he did. I think he expected the GTO to just track out there, which is Roman Bello. Let's watch it again on the board. You can see the cars there. Roman's not misshifted. That's a really questionable and got to be a lapse of concentration there from Swebig, because I just can't understand what has happened there for him to do that position. Also, note, as you see on the timing tower, Van Hicks did pit, had enough time. He's 7 seconds ahead.
Yeah, Johanny Cameron trying and is going to find a bit of safety out there. Now, Henning Schwebig doesn't have enough minutes to the end of the race to survive, and as such, is going to have to come down into the pits. If that had happened 3 minutes later, that incident with Roman Bello, Henning Schwebig would have been able to limp that car home in what would have been a very comfortable 4th place finish. That will promote Shady Ahmad up to 4th. And Shady Ahmad's race here today from 15th to 5th is the complete epitome of Shady gets a 4th place finish by doing absolutely nothing.
What did I say earlier about Valentea's battle of attrition? He's not had to do anything crazy. He's had a couple of moments out there today, kept the car clean, and look, even just there through the traffic, realised it, got to keep it clean. Yes, Jack Wells is coming up behind him. Yes, that is happening, but he's still in a position. Plus 11 for the day. Really good drive, and a man that wants to be more today. Ove Trengarade, as we watch him, he was -1 for the day.
Look at that car.
But look at the damage on the car ahead of him. He's got a chance to finish a net 0 today.
I tell you what, it's like Phillip Lake has decided to enter his Audi into a battle of battle bots or robot wars or whatever you like to call it. He looks like he's been in a fight. He's got himself effectively a Glasgow kiss of a front face at this moment, and he'll look around and see that Hervé Trengarade, well, he's not going to wait around. He's caught so quickly, and over to the outside it's going to be here goes Phillip Lake. He's got to do everything he can, because as the group now starts to join together, suddenly they're both heavily lifting off, and Josh Brain joins in and tries to go through. They are fuel saving like crazy.
I wonder if they decided that they had to pit early for the damage, try to see what they can do, and just try to go from there. And I think that's why Phillip Lake and Ove Trengarade was doing a little bit of fuel save, and Josh Brain just goes straight in. He pitted super early. Remember, he had that moment and had to come in earlier in the race? That could be the moment. But the flapping bonnet of Phillip Lake may be hampering him here a little bit. Wide goes Brain. That allows Phillip. You do not want to see it. Hold it, Phillip. Oh, he could not hold it. But he keeps it alive, though. But all those positions, oh, he's losing.
Oh, look how far he's dropped back, and he's still stuck there. I wonder if he stalled it and doesn't have a way of getting that back up to speed again. He doesn't, so that's Phillip Lake done there in that moment. And we've just seen a car off the road, which is Emilio Dechari in avoidance, but Hervé Trengarade now in 8th position and desperately trying to hold. 4 minutes to go here at Phillip Island.
4 minutes to go. Can he hold on to this is the question. We're watching Ian Haycox now, as he's still in some battles here. He may be in 21st position, but he still wants some bragging rights, and he's going to try and go around the outside of Jan Rinklin, and he should get this for 20th. Not where he wants to be today. Real good recovery drive, though, from Ian after everything that's happened. Just trying to hold on. He spent almost 2 minutes into the pits trying to get that repairs done. I put him a lap down. It's crazy to think there's 17 of the 27 starting GTOs that are still on the same lap.
Jack Wells has not given up hopes of 4th position here. He's only 2 seconds back of Shady Ahmad. I look at the last lap of a 16.6. He did lose 0.6 of a second, but most of it is traffic, and one of them will jump off the road scared of Jack Wells there. That's Christoph Löblich, who falls off the road. Doug Cloud and Roman Bello move their way forward, but this is where you look and say, a couple minutes to go, an extra space or two to be found. You are praying that you find yourself a little bit of traffic for the car in front and that your pace holds compared to your competitors.
You're going to need a little bit of a bookmarking move right now as Nicholas Mikanos takes the fastest lap away from Valenteas. Haven't said that for a while. He takes that fastest lap away, but this is what Shady needs. He needs that little bit of bookmarking right now, and there's still a lot of GTOs out there, so he was going to be able to do that. And Jack gets a little bit held up there from Rossini, so that's going to cause him more time. The gap now 2.9, going almost 3 seconds. just what Ahmad needed, was just some traffic to help him. He needed some help, he got some help, and oh my word, he almost lost that help.
Oh, and speaking of help needed, Brendan Lim having a big spin over the top of Lukey Heights. He's been struggling with that corner all day, and he's had his second spin that's come across, and he's had some contact down there with Roman Bello. So that will really hurt his run as Cotasalo looks for 9th place late in this race. And there's huge car off there as they go through. And who is that that's gone by? That's Jack Wells.
Yeah, Jack Wells, he lost it on his own. Lost control of the car on his own, tried to save it, and it was just so tough. He went a bit too wide. He tried to take the outside line, had to go around Josh Brain. He saddled the curb, put some of the tyres onto the grass. We're going to watch it very quickly. This is Brendan Lim losing it. You've got to feel sorry for Roman Bello. How many times has his nose been a little bit of a bumper for these GTPs today? But that has happened to Jack Wells. That gives Shady Ahmad a lot of breathing room.
Yeah, and Shady again, it is effectively the meme of Luigi wins by doing nothing. This has been that sort of way that he's been looking around at it. But there's your race leader, Adrius Valenterius. He's clear at the moment by 17.5, and he can afford to lift off now and take less risk around here as he joins the likes of Cotasalo, lifts massively off going through, trying to allow as many cars as possible to battle on the final lap, because that's Cotasalo versus Shane Hawkins. Give Shane Hawkins a lot of credit there. Number 36 on the car, battling around with 11 and 13s in iRacing. He's done a wonderful job here today, as now here goes Valenterius picking up the drive and says 1 lap to go for him right now, Craig.
Yeah, and that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to make sure the drivers had some time to fight, didn't want to influence that fight, and really smart for him as these four will start battling. I tell you what, the gap between Platon and Mechanos also closing up in this last lap. So it's going to be a very interesting finish for 10 drivers, it feels like right now. Valenterius just 3/4 away from finishing the race.
It's a 2.5 for Nicholas Mucanos at this stage as Ove Trengarade gears up the move. Big wide line at Stoner, hoping that Jungle Jack Miller's corner will work out for him. It's formerly the Honda corner there as you go through turn 4. No chance for him to pick up that pass, but he still sits in the middle and says, I've still got chances here. I've still got opportunities, but late is the line that they find. Adrius Valenterius is not a million miles away from the rest of this race being done. He's only a couple corners away now in a race where, simply put, everyone around him has been fallible. Everyone around him has not been immune to issues. But for Adrius Valenterius, how good are you as a Classics driver? 9 straight races unbeaten this season. He's on another stratosphere compared to everybody else. Trengarade still looks to try and get that place as he comes over towards the line, dragging everything he can towards it, and in the grass he can't find his path to move through. Shane Hawkins, what a 9th place that will be. Ivan Platon could do nothing for Nicholas Mucanos, and I look to a driver in the number 4 car right now at the top end of the circuit here, Craig, who is sat down and saying, well, where did everybody go?
Van Hicks has got 4-second gap between him and Cameron, and he's been taking it easy, trying to do a little bit of fuel saving at the same time. He won't need to worry anymore. He's got Shady Ahmad behind him, who's made 11 places up this race in the GTPs. What a drive for Ahmad, but what a drive for Van Hicks. He kept it clean. He kept it safe. That's all he needed to do. No mistakes up there today for the number 4. Johan Van Hicks adds another win to his cap, and I think you could say that all of a sudden, nobody can catch him.
Nobody can. Yohani Cameron was giving it a good old college try, heading towards the end of that race, and he'll say, also, I did my best, and it wasn't quite enough. Second, though, for Yohani Cameron, give him some credit. Here's a driver who wants that race back, Craig. Noel Lundberg.
That one moment, how do you talk about it? Such an unfortunate moment, and it can happen to the best of drivers, and that was the deciding factor in this race. Look at it, he finishes 22nd behind Van Hicks. That was how much time he lost. He came into the pits, he got the repairs done, but it was all for nothing. He already lost when he had to take that damage for a few laps.
Well, I think this goes down as a tough hour for many, many drivers here. Just the 5 able to stay on the leading lap. But category, it's the same old story time and again here on the Global SimRacing Channel as part of a Genesis Extreme production. Aldrius Valenterius just wins and wins and wins, and this time wins by 15 seconds over Nicolas Mucanos. Ivan Platon had himself the closest charge, I think, today to make something happen, but that first run through the traffic, nothing more that you can do. Shadi Ahmad will take 4th position ahead of Jack Wells and Esteban Monteros in 6th position. Fabian Youngblood 7th despite a speeding penalty. Heads Brendan Lim with 2 spins. Elena Jacques also had himself a speeding penalty and gets 9th, with Matthew Cockerham picking up the top 10. Dylan Freckleton had his own troubles today in 11th ahead of Sander Verbruja. You got Lance Simon in 13th and Andres Felipe Diaz in 14th. And then it's a case of those who are out of this race. And it says a who's who out there with Henning Schwebig, Jacob Reed, Ferran Grau, Eki Anderson, Tomiya Inatani, and then Vitas Jahatso there in the 47 car out very early on in the race, which leads us to GTO, where it was the same story that we've seen quite a bit this season.
Yeah, but if I told you that was Van Hicks's 3rd win this season, you wouldn't believe me. He takes victory comfortably today, even though the gap was 4 seconds from Johanny Cameron, who finishes in 2nd. And Andreas Schuss will be home in 3rd with Noel Lundberg. What could have been after that one mistake? He finishes in 4th. Henry Morse, +9 for the day into 5th. And Austin Farr, real great drive today, +11 to be in 6th. And then it's Josh Braden 7th. Ove Trengered will be 8th. Shane Hawkins as well, a really good drive from the number 36 in 9th. Ika Costa-Salo with a very quiet 10th. Moving into the second page with Thorben Pollock, who makes up 4 positions into 11th. Roman Bello was in the battles today, and he finishes 12th, with Martin Krajcik up 5 into 13th. Emilio Dechari will be 14th. Seamus Power will take that 15th, with Duncan Moraes 16th. Jamie Hamill-Smith will take 17th, with Carlos Fonseca 18th. Ian Haycox 2 laps down 19th. Jan Rinklin will be 20th. And the final page, we get to those that had those moments out there. Alejandro Silva Caride, he was finishing 21st. Christopher Lovic as well, 22nd. He had problems out there. So did Paul Clavier. And Luca Massini also had an early retirement into 24th. Doug Cloud, also the next retiree, with Philip Lake and Henry Viamaki, who finished pretty early into the race. Those are 27. Not a lot of retirees, though.
No, not in GTO, and I think that was quite good for them as a category. It was mainly the GTPs that had to pay the price today for the racing action. But as it comes to a circuit like this one, Craig, it is simply magnificent to see all of the battling that we've seen over the IMSA Vintage series. They'll move back, of course, over the course of racing to that 40-minute schedule that they will be running. They will realise that they've only got a couple rounds left in this championship to sort themselves out, and by the time that they have sorted themselves out, they'll be saying, well, what can I do on the horizon? It's Zandvoort in a week, and so when it gets to Zandvoort, if you thought that this was tight and technical, just get yourself in the Dutch dunes. That is super difficult.
You take every word away from me, and yeah, it is super tricky. It has also delivered some fantastic racing in the series, just with those tight technical sections in the middle of the track. Really opens up a lot of racing in this multi-class aspect. It is tighter. It is going to be tough out there, and if you get a field like we've got today, it's going to be a big challenge for the GTPs. But again, the factor, 40 minutes, we're back to the sprint race format. That should open up a lot more battling, I feel. We may have a bloodbath, or we may have one of the greatest races in the world.
Well, that you can catch with us here on the Global SimRacing Channel, 31st of May. That will be coming along to you, so you definitely want to check that out as we get ourselves sorted, because the month of May is not quite over and done with yet when it comes to that. It's been a massive undertaking to bring this show over, of course, to all of you, and it's been a pleasure to do so. From the entire team that's been here today, from Craig King, from Christian Deploy, and from Dougie Beard, this has been a Genesis Extreme production. But as things go, you now sit and say, well, what's next in terms of my sim racing that I want to watch? Well, Sunday, you can go to the Saxon Ring and say, get your greatest day of Motorsport Sorted, starting with Skip Barber's out there. If you decide that you don't like Monaco or you think that the Indy 500's a bit overrated, Classic Lotus Grand Prix will be there from VIR. Of course, we've talked about next week and what happens with IMSA Vintage at Zandvoort, but of course the Grand Prix legends will be back and they'll be taking the circuit of Monza into play. And if you take a look at that map, I don't see a chicane heading towards the Curva Biasino out there, turn number 3, which is now turn 1 on that layout. You can only catch that with us, but as far as seasons go, it is very difficult to win. It is even more difficult to keep winning. They say that once you win once, that's great. Everybody else will be now gunning to try and take you off the mountain. As far as it goes for Algis Valenterius, he's untouchable at this stage with the way that he has dominated. Joran van Hicks takes huge advantage as well from Noel Lundberg's classic mistake out there here today. No other way of describing it except one which he will play back a million times and go, how on earth did I do that? The championship's widen again with not many rounds left in the season. We'll see you in 7 days when we take on the Dutch dunes of Zandvoort.